So I've got my new General Grabber ATX tires on the way in size 33, 12.5, 15. I mentioned before in a community post that I made on YouTube that really my goal with going with an all-terrain over a mud terrain is I want to maintain as much off-road capability as I can, but just comfort up the ride a little bit. So a little bit softer riding, a little bit more street friendly as far as road noise. I've got the 33 10.5 15 BFG KM2s right now, and they are awesome off-road, but they are pretty worn and they're definitely loud. It makes it difficult to make phone calls. It makes it difficult to have a conversation with people while I'm driving. You know, the internet always says that they were a pretty quiet driving tire, but I guess that's relative to how aggressive the tread pattern is. So before I show you guys the details of the ATX and talk about why I went with them, I'm going to go ahead and just make a noise comparison with my BFG KM2s as they are now, which of course is 4 years old, so the rubbers are going to have changed a bit since they were brand new. Not going to be a soft material, and it will be loud, right? And so that's the other thing, is you got to take away the bias when judging new tires, because when you go from an old worn out tire and go to a new one, it's almost always like groundbreaking how awesome the new tire is, right? But I do want to try and take some objective measurements and demonstrate how loud the KM2s are now that they've had 4 years of use on them. And then I want to make the same comparison once I get the General Grabber ATX installed. So this is just the ambient noise with the engine off. I'm going to start the engine, then I'll slowly start driving out of the neighborhood. And particularly, I'm going to get it up to speed on the interstate so you can see how much highway drone there is with the KM2s. This is the baseline. Radio is off, air conditioning is off, so you shouldn't be getting any extra noise from the air vents. Looking at a sound meter on my phone, it's approximately 67 and 68 decibels of sound pressure. So that's about 73 decibels of sound pressure when I'm going 70 miles per hour on the interstate. At that speed, my engine is right around 25 to 2600 RPM. Alright guys, I am just leaving Firestone, and I'm going to do a little bit of a first impressions review of the General Grabber ATX in 33, 12.5, 15 on the stock 15x7 rim. So I'm going to go ahead and get going. We'll start off on some 45-mile-an-hour roads, and then I'll get on the interstate to slowly test out how they run. I did get a lot of speeches from Firestone about how this is not recommended, safety issue, and that you know, they might rub and it's going to cause all sorts of problems. They eventually agreed to install them, but they made it well known that they don't like putting big tires on small rims. But you might have to call around, but they do physically fit, we'll say that. I am going to be taking it very easy at first, just because they are larger and wider tires. But I will say at slow speeds and in the parking lot, I don't really get a lot of pressure on the steering wheel. It seems to turn really smooth, so I'm pretty satisfied with that so far. They definitely are a smooth riding tire, and of course I'm comparing it to a 4-year-old BFG KM2 and a 33 10.5 15. They're pretty worn out. They had 27,000 miles on them. But so far, I was afraid, I'm running them at 30 PSI right now. I was kind of afraid that because of the lower tire pressure and the wider footprint, that it would have a lot of drag and a lot of resistance when turning, like in parking lots and everything. It actually seems to be driving very smooth so far. Again, I'm still in parking lots getting ready to turn on a 45-mile-an-hour road. I've got air conditioning off, and yeah, so all you should be hearing is road noise, engine noise, wind noise, etc. So just cruising at 45 miles an hour, I'm right around 57 decibels of noise, and that's with my foot kind of off the gas because I'm kind of coasting at the moment. If I put in a little bit of the engine noise, it gets up into 62, 63 decibel range, so a fair bit quieter. But that does tell me that my engine noise is actually quite a bit, you know, louder relative to the tire noise. I do hear a little bit of kind of almost wind noise, which I guess is because of the wider contact patch, it's pushing more air out of the way, so there is maybe some wind noise that I can hear, but it's not nearly like the howl that worn mud terrains get on my BFG KM2s. Power and deceleration is about the same, if not a little bit better. They are the same weight as the BFG KM2s. So I was hoping that it would not make my power and street drivability worse than what I had with the BFG KM2. So these are the 33-inch tires. The specs on them actually show them as a full-size 33. I don't think that that's quite accurate, but we'll do a comparison with my brand new KM2 spare so we can kind of see the diameter size and the width size. I'll take it off my tire carrier. I am getting on the interstate now, so once my engine is up to speed, I'll see how loud it is with just the tires. I'm right around 67 decibels, and that's actually quite a bit less than the KM2s. They actually drive very smooth. I'm kind of surprised. Impressed so far, even for a wider tire, that the street drivability and comfort level is a lot more than the KM2s. There's something plasticky in my hatch area that's sliding around. I got to figure out what that is. So the initial impression of the General Grabber ATX, again, I'm comparing them to my BFG KM2s that had 27,000 miles on them, or worn out, and they howl like a banshee. But the General Grabber ATX handles very well. I will say, specific on the Nissan Xterra front, where you got a stock 15x7 rim, doing a 33 12.5/15, it was a little bit of an issue with balancing, but I don't really notice any real drivability issues that are any different from a 33 10.5/15. So I definitely like the size, assuming that I can address any of the clearance or interference and rubbing issues. So I've gone just about 10 miles since I got the tires on. I put them in some stop and go, like traffic stoplights type situations, steady state, kind of 45 or 50 mile an hour speed limit, and then I got them up on the highway. I will say that the highway was fine. You do hear a little bit of wind noise, probably from the wider contact patch of the overall tread. I'm running them at 30 psi right now, but at least from my initial measurements, there is a significant reduction in road noise compared to worn out mud terrains, which is what you should really expect. So if you can find someone to install the 33 12.5/15s on a 15x7 rim, it seems like it's definitely doable, but you might have to deal with some minor trimming, and I'll kind of highlight that once I take a deeper look. So here's a couple photos showing my new unused KM2 spare tire next to the Grabber ATX. Obviously the Grabber ATX is about 2 inches wider, but the diameter was about the same at 32.5 inches. Here you can see the amount of sidewall bulge when you mount a 12.5-inch wide tire on a 7-inch rim. The last thing that I'll leave you with is a few clips of the road noise edited right next to each other so you can make a quick comparison.